Good day folks, Sean here from Air Photography. In today's video, we're going to talk about whether you should upgrade from the current Mini 2 to the upcoming DJI Mini 3 Pro. We're also going to talk about whether now is a good time to sell your DJI Mini 2 and prepare for the Mini 3 purchase. We're potentially just a couple weeks away from the launch of the Mini 3, and there's a lot to consider before you make any decisions. Do you get rid of your Mini 2 now, or do you take a wait and see approach? Now, before we get too far into things, again, I want to mention all the information that we're going to be talking about is based on leaks and rumors. Nothing is official and nothing is confirmed by DJI, so take everything with a grain of salt. So as we get closer to the launch of the Mini 3, rumors and leaks are coming fast and hard. Last week we had a Dutch retailer prematurely publish a landing page for the DJI Mini 3 Pro, and that provided us with many of the different specs and things we can expect to see. The Mini 3 is shaping up to be one incredible drone and quite the powerhouse. Now, the reason I'm making this video is I've had a couple people over the last week ask me if they should go ahead and sell the Mini 2 to get ready for the purchase of the Mini 3. And I'm sure if a few people are asking me, there's other people wondering the same thing. Now, it's one of those questions that are very difficult to answer, and there's a couple things that you need to consider first before you make any decision. Whether to go ahead and sell it now or take the wait and see approach, both have their pros and cons. Of course, once the Mini 3 has been announced and launched, there's going to be a ton of these hit the marketplace, so it could be a little bit more difficult to sell. Now, these drones tend to hold their value fairly well, so you shouldn't get any less after an announcement. What you can sell your Mini 2 for today, you should still be able to get after an announcement of a new Mini 3. Now, of course, as mentioned, there could be a lot on the market, so it may take you a little bit more time. So that is something to consider. But the big thing you do need to consider if you are thinking about selling your Mini 2 now is that we don't really have any solid information on when we're going to see the Mini 3. The latest rumors suggest that we're going to see the announcement on May 10th, but what we don't know is if we'll actually be able to get the drone on May 10th. Sometimes when DJI releases a drone, you can purchase it immediately. You can go into a place like Best Buy or order it on Amazon, have it the next day. However, sometimes with these drone releases, you have to wait a couple weeks. So that's something important to keep in mind. If you're a person who likes to fly every day, you could potentially go a month without flying a drone. Some people would be okay with that, some people wouldn't. The other thing to consider when it comes to something like the Mini 3 that has not been announced by DJI yet is that the product can get pushed back, and we've seen that before with other products. They could discover some kind of flaw or bug in the software and push it back even a couple months. If it's a critical hardware flaw, it could even get pushed back till the fall. So if you go ahead and sell your Mini 2 now, you could potentially go all summer without flying a drone. So those are the two main things that you have to decide for yourself. There's no right and wrong answer. It could be easier to sell before an announcement, but you could potentially go without a drone for quite some time. So with all that said, let's go ahead and we'll talk about what benefits you're going to gain if you upgrade to the Mini 3 Pro from something like the Mini 2. Essentially, what you're going to be getting is a miniature version of the Air 2S. Of course, the Mini 3 is going to have a little bit smaller of a sensor. The Air 2S has a 1-inch sensor, and the Mini 3 is only going to have a 1/1.3-inch sensor. Now that translates into approximately 0.75 inch of a sensor, so it's pretty close, but the specs on everything else are very similar, and in some aspects it's even higher. So as mentioned, the camera is going to be your first major upgrade. You're going to go to that larger sensor, which is going to allow for more dynamic range, and generally performs better in lower light conditions. On top of that, the Mini 2 has a fixed aperture of 2.8, whereas the Mini 3 is going to have a fixed aperture of 1.7. So again, that's going to allow more light in, and it's going to allow it to perform better in low light scenarios. And not just at night, because a lot of people don't fly at night, but even if you're flying on dark, overcast days, you're going to have a better image quality. But not only that, if you're a person who likes to capture sunrises, sunsets, flying at twilight, you're going to overall have a better image quality. In addition, the Mini 3 camera is going to be able to record at 4K 60, compared to 4K 30 of the Mini 2. That higher frame rate will allow you to slow your footage down by half when editing, and for myself, that's my preferred format to capture in. Now, another interesting feature that you're going to get with the Mini 3 is vertical style videos. According to the leaked documents, the camera is going to be able to turn vertically in technology that DJI is calling true vertical. That allows you to capture portrait style shots and videos for uploading to social media such as TikTok, Instagram Reels, and even YouTube Shorts. With a traditional drone, you capture in a landscape, and then if you do want vertical video, you have to crop it. In that situation, you're not making full use of all the resolution available to you, and things may not be framed properly. So if you can turn the whole camera vertically, you can then frame things correctly, and you're going to make use of every bit of resolution that's available to you. Now, that vertical video is definitely not for everybody, but for some people it's very important, especially if you are growing a social media channel, and it's just a nice feature to have available to you, whether you're going to use it frequently or just maybe perhaps once in a while. The camera will also be able to capture for HDR video, which is something you cannot do on the Mini 2. Another feature that you're going to get from upgrading from the Mini 2 to the Mini 3 is being able to capture in desyn-like. Now, desyn-like is a flat color profile. It allows people to go in and do their own grading. You can pull out more detail and basically get your video looking exactly like you want when grading it. Now, another big improvement you're going to get when you upgrade from the Mini 2 to the Mini 3 is flight time. The Mini 2 is rated to fly for 31 minutes. The Mini 3 Pro is rated to fly for 34 minutes with the standard battery. But one of the things we learned about the Mini 3 is that it's going to have a second battery, a high capacity battery that will allow the Mini 3 to fly for 47 minutes. So if you're a person who prioritizes flight time over anything else, that's going to be a great option for you. Now, when it comes to that newer high capacity battery, we don't have a lot of information about the packages, whether you can get it with a base package or if they're just something that you have to purchase separately. But to my understanding, if you purchase the drone with the stock battery, it'll still be classed a 249 gram drone. With that higher capacity battery, even though you're going to get more flight time, it most likely will put the weight of the drone over 250 grams. So that is something to keep in mind if that weight, 249 grams, is important to you. Now, of course, one of the big new features of the Mini 3 is now it has obstacle avoidance. We have two big obstacle avoidance sensors at the front. There's going to be two obstacle avoidance sensors at the bottom. And then, of course, there's two rear-facing obstacle avoidance sensors. Now, obstacle avoidance is, again, one of those features not everybody uses. A lot of people just disable it on other drones that are capable of it. But they do come in handy from time to time, especially when you're flying in reverse. Now, with the addition of obstacle avoidance, it allows DJI to include some of its other intelligent flight modes, such as tracking. Tracking is something that people have been wanting on a mini drone for quite some time. DJI doesn't include tracking on drones that doesn't have obstacle avoidance just for safety reasons, because there's nothing to prevent it then from flying into a tree. On top of that, we're going to get the full focus track features. So that means you're also going to have the feature of spotlight and point of interest. Definitely some really useful tools. On top of that, we're going to have APAS. Basically, if you're not quite sure what APAS is, if you're flying something like the Mini 2, when the drone is approaching an object, APAS is going to try and find a safe route above it or around it. So as you approach, it'll keep going around or it will go over top. Now, when it comes to intelligent flight modes, on top of that, we're going to be getting master shots and hyperlapses. Up until now, that was not available on their Mini series. And lastly, another big upgrade is the OcuSync 3 transmission system. That's going to allow for greater range and more reliable connectivity. So yeah, folks, just a quick overview of what you're going to be getting if you upgrade from something like the Mini 2. A lot of really nice new upgrades, and especially if you're coming from something like the original Mavic Mini, it's going to be like a night and day difference for image quality and just performance of the drone. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and got some value out of it. Give it a thumbs up if you did. It's always greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.